Hello, everybody. I'm excited to introduce you to Kristen Santos of Childlike Yoga. And what we're going to talk about today is something that is super interesting for PE teachers and those of us who work in schools who are looking for ways how to integrate yoga, mindfulness, and meditation into the curriculum. So important. So thank you so much for being here today, Kristen. Let's start off with I know childlike yoga for years, but let's find out more about you specifically. I imagine you have your own business as well. So talk to us about sort of your background, your passion, and how did you find this niche of yoga and PE?
Well, thank you for having me. So Childlight Yoga, um, I took my first training in 2017, and now it's actually called Childlight Education Company, because Sally Delisle and Megan Morris are the owners of it. They bought it from Lisa Flynn. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016, and every doctor said to me, "Have you tried yoga? Have you tried yoga?" And actually, no, I hadn't really tried yoga. I played basketball in college, but never did yoga. And I didn't know anything about it. And that question bothered me so much that I was almost annoyed. Like, what's the
Mm,
deal with yoga? So after I went all through all my stuff, I thought, okay, I'm going to give yoga a try. So I did. And I just started doing simple videos online. And the breathing is what really helped me. And I wish I had
mm,
a time machine and I could have gone back in time and told myself to do yoga before I was diagnosed, because it just, learning yoga and learning more about it has equipped me on how to deal with things that are challenging, like the diagnosis of, breast cancer.
right.
Um, so I started Googling, because anytime I find something good for myself, I want to bring it to my children. I have a 13 and 16-year-old, and I also want to bring it to my students where I teach in Hopkinton, Massachusetts. So I started Googling back in 2017 and stumbled across Childlight Education. And I took my first training, and it was yoga and mindfulness for children. And it was like the light bulb went on. And I kept saying, how are we going to get this into the PE curriculum? And I went back for more. A week later, I came back and I took yoga for athletes, and then I took yoga for teens and tweens. And before I knew it, I was on the track to get my 95-hour certification to become a children's instructor. So things were going great. And I started a yoga club at school. I made it my professional practice goal, because as public school teachers, we need to have two goals every year. So my professional practice goal was to bring yoga to Hopkinton. So I went and I taught a lesson at each school. And one of my friends, she's now retired, her name is Chris Basil. She was like, Kristen, this is amazing. You need to share this with other PE teachers. I love what you're doing. And I was just so busy at the time. My kids were younger, and I was flattered, and I thought, oh, okay, thank you, Chris. But it wasn't the right time. But I still kept trying to get yoga into the curriculum. And I kept Googling, thinking, there's got to be something I can follow. And then 2020 hit. And the silver lining for me of 2020 was Childlight Education offered their 200-hour on Zoom. So for 6 weeks, I was up in my bedroom,
Mm,
Zooming with 12 other wonderful people,
yeah.
and we spent a lot of time together, and we got our 200-hour certification. And then when I went back to school that fall of 2020, everything was different. We had a
Yeah.
hybrid model, and half the students would come one day and half the students would come the other day. And Hopkinton just did such a great job of trying to keep things normal for
Mm,
students. And
yeah.
in PE class, we went outside a lot, but you couldn't play catch with somebody, because the fear was if you touched the ball and somebody else touched the ball and they had COVID. So
Mm,
let's just say I did a lot of yoga, and the kids really benefited from it. And
mm,
I felt good doing it. I mean, I was scrubbing mats in between classes and hanging them on the bleachers or the auditorium or wherever I was having class that day. And I thought, now's the time. So I decided to put together a curriculum, K through 5. Can I show you the book?
yes, of course. Amazing.
So it's the yoga curriculum for physical education K to 5. And then recently, well, people liked this one so much that they encouraged me to do this one.
Yeah. I love it. That's
Middle
so
school
great.
curriculum. And my
Yeah.
sister's the one who did the illustrations. She's an
Oh,
art.
how sweet is that? Oh,
So
I
what
love it.
what this is it's 4 lesson plans per grade level. Each grade level has 6 poses and a breath. So the whole scope and sequence is laid out for you from K to 8.
I love that. I love that. I love your integration of your experience as a PE teacher, as a mom. You yourself found yoga
Mm.
and you want to share the benefits, and then you did the training. So that together is such a beautiful combination. I love that you're doing that. So what are some of the benefits you saw? You were saying that during COVID you were practicing a lot more yoga in the PE classes, and you said it was working for them. What are some of those benefits? Like, why is this a good idea to integrate yoga into PE?
So we need to teach children how to self-regulate and by using their breath.
Mm,
So I always tell them when you exhale longer than your inhale, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the opposite of fight or flight. So
mm,
we practice these breaths. And a lot of kids are still anxious today, but when we went back to school in that early fall, I mean, I would notice kids getting anxiety if they touched a doorknob, and then they would
mm.
go over and wash their hands, right?
Yeah,
So we'd start classes with breathing,
yeah,
and that would help. And it's a skill, just like any other skill, like dribbling a basketball. You need to practice it so that when you get in that situation, you can go to it.
right. So I'm curious about this buy-in because you make it sound so easy, right? So what are some of your tips, would you say, for integrating yoga into PE class, even if you don't have an experience yourself? Because that's a lot, common we hear from our community saying, okay, great, I love this idea. I maybe have practiced yoga before, but I don't have the confidence because I don't have a lot of experience myself. Or people, teachers say, understandably, I have this jam-packed curriculum. How can I possibly fit it in? Or else the buy-in from the children, they're not interested. They think it's lame or uncool. So how do you introduce it in a way that
Well,
works?
well, selfishly, the reason why I made that my goal in 2017 after taking child light trainings was I would tell my sixth graders, I'm a middle school PE teacher, I would tell the sixth graders, oh, we're going to do yoga. And I had all these wonderful things planned. And the reaction that I got was, oh, yoga? And I'd say, no, 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 wait, it's really fun. So then I realized that I needed to get to the K to 5 teachers first in Hopkinton.
Hmm.
So that's why I went and I taught them how to do some things. So then by the time they got to me in middle school, there was some familiarity. Can't say that
Yeah,
word. Um,
yeah,
um, and they would come in knowing that it was fun.
right,
Um, you don't need to be an expert. I taught flag football in the fall. I never played football. I can't throw a spiral. So
right,
we as PE teachers, we teach a lot of different skills,
yeah, right,
right? We don't have to demonstrate all of them. But if you think it has value, figure it out. Take some courses. There's
right.
many resources out there. I've been going around to conferences and presenting to PE teachers on how to implement yoga into the curriculum. And in March, I'm going to be at the Shape America conference. Shape is the organization that sets the national standards and guidelines for physical education and health teachers.
That
So
is so
the
exciting.
presenter, yes, I'm very excited
Mm,
about that. And that's
yeah,
why I put together this book, trying to
mm,
make it easy for teachers to follow.
right, exactly. Yeah, that reminds me, I've been working with a middle school PE teacher at my daughter's school, and she got a grant through the public school foundation, right, to take her adult yoga teacher training. So she started there. She did her own
Fabulous.
training first, and then she's looking at sixth, seventh, and eighth. And we've been working through a yoga unit. So they have like 2 week blocks, right?
Mhm.
So it's a proper yoga unit, and we're looking at each day having or each session has a theme, so empathy or kindness or whatever, and then we integrate breath and poses and meditation like that. So it's all a very, a set yoga
That's
unit.
great.
And then in seventh grade, they integrate it within the health component, right? Talking about healthy eating and wellness. And then in seventh grade, they do more sort of stretching. They don't call it yoga, but it's more stretching, so more about mobility.
Mhm.
So is that, these are isolated units as such, but do you come from that approach, or do you have it that it's integrated in every class in some aspect?
So, yes and yes, I've done it both ways. And I feel like I never do the same thing every year. With my eighth graders right now, they have yoga for a whole trimester. Um, and it's wonderful. We have an elective program at Hopkinton Middle School. So in seventh grade, they sign up for what they want to take for a whole trimester. So
Mm,
one of the offerings is with me right now, and it's yoga. And it is just my favorite. I get so much out of it physically, mentally, emotionally, and the students really benefit from it too.
right.
The other thing I do, and I do yoga units with sixth and seventh grade, but I weave it in through everything. They have
Mm,
warm ups when they come into class. So it could be going to a breath, or it could be holding tree pose, or doing a sun salutation.
mm.
Um, the yoga club and the art club in my school, we teamed up together and we did yoga silhouettes around the gym. So we have 16 different
Um,
poses, and the kids would trace each other,
wow.
and then we painted. So they'll come in and they'll do warrior one, warrior two, and I on the fly I
Oh,
incorporate that into games too. So it's really just become kind of second nature.
right.
One of my favorite stories is 2 years ago, no, last year, we were out on the field for flag football, and there was a boy who was really, really upset. Disagreed with the call, and so I called him over and I said, "Pick a breath." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Either snake breath or buzzing breath." So he sat there and he did buzzing breath, and he was exhaling longer than his inhale.
Mm,
And he said, "Can I go back in now, Mrs. Santos?" I said, "Nope, not yet." He did it again. "Now can I go in? Are you calm?" I said, "You can't go back in and play until you're calm." So then when he calmed himself down, he was allowed to go back in. But I love that because it was a real life experience of when you're
mm,
upset and things aren't going your way, instead of getting mad and just yelling, what else can you
mm.
do?
Right. I love that. You were teaching in the moment. I love that.
Mhm.
So give us a snapshot. What is sort of like what are some of those ideas from your book, for example?
So with the elementary, it's a lot of basic things, like you were saying before, like freeze tag, red light, green light. Um, And you can't expect students to come to the gym and sit down and be quiet for 45 minutes, especially at that age, and do yoga. So,
Mm,
the way I designed this curriculum is you come in, you run around, you do red light, green light, you freeze, and you go into chair pose. And then those poses that we played in the game, I wrote a mat sequence that a teacher could just get up in front of the class and read. Um,
mhm.
there are also cards that you can cut out of the book, laminate, and then hold them up. So if you want to demonstrate,
Right.
great, because you'll feel good from practicing yoga. And then if you don't want to, you can just hold the card up and the
Yeah.
kids all go into it.
Yeah. And they know the poses. I was saying that, I recently subbed for a PE class and I didn't know that's what I was coming into. So I just quickly created 4 different stations and one of them was freeze tag. I just made it up. There were some yoga dots. Well, they're not yoga dots, the dots.
Oh, yes.
So I had the dots put out in just that 1/4 of a space in the gym. And then it was freeze tag. So that if they were on there, they would do tree pose and then melt. They could count down 3, 2, 1, and they had to jump
Okay.
off that space.
That's
So,
great.
I just pretended it was like an island and they were a tree and like that. And then the
That's
other
so
one we
creative.
did, well, you just like, as teachers, you just have to kind of come up with
Mhm.
it. And then the other one I did a crab pose because they had pylons. So we did like crab walk or a downward dog, a bear
Mhm.
walk around because I was trying to get them to, the range of movement. So I thought, well, this is some way to integrate yoga, I think.
Absolutely. Every bit helps.
Yeah.
That's great. With the middle school, they get more into sun salutation B. And I find, oh, then partner poses.
Yes, right.
Um, and I find too that with the older kids, they want to be a little bit more on the mats practicing than the games. They're
Yes, right. Exactly.
more, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and especially with some of my really athletic kids, I tie in yoga for athletes.
Yes.
Last year, I was doing yoga, and some of the kids wanted to play basketball instead. And I said, "Well, we will get to basketball, but have you heard of LeBron James?" And then
Right.
I said, "Well, he just broke the scoring record, 38,000 points." And if you Google LeBron James and yoga, he says that yoga is the reason why he can play the game that he loves so
Yeah.
much and so well and for so long. So if
Yes.
you're an athlete and you like to play sports, find a way to incorporate this
Yes.
into your training.
Yes, I love that. I love that meeting, especially with the older children, is meeting them where they're at. So I wrote a yoga mindfulness for young athletes as well. And at the back, I did this research about all the, so many famous athletes, and I have the quotes there because it's so important, whether they're basketball, baseball, skaters, whatever, to meet them where they're at. And if somebody that they admire is
Right.
practicing yoga, then that's the way to get them to hook in, right? To get their
Right.
buy-in. I
And the
love
power
that.
of Google too. They're always on their
Yeah,
phones. So
exactly.
sometimes I'll say to them too, Google tech neck, see what comes up. All right. And then all of a sudden they sit up and
Right.
their heart, chest, and lungs, right?
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Tech neck. I haven't heard that before.
Google it
Tech.
when we're done.
Yeah, I will. Great. So, what would you say to teachers out there who, PE teachers in particular, who want to get started but just kind of don't know where to start?
Couple of things. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. As
Mm,
teachers, it's okay when we make a mistake, we learn from it, we change it, and then we try it again.
yeah.
There are many resources out there. Your website, my website,
Mm, mm,
yogaandphysed.com, Childlight. People are always sharing ideas, and you don't need to be an expert. Just
right.
like me teaching flag football. I never played, but I
Right.
managed to do it for a whole unit and have assessments, and
Right.
it went great.
I think there's also the way that you get the confidence, like, just even coming through in this chatting together, there's a certain level, this is what we're doing. There's a confidence in it. It works. Let's do this. So if you come in like, I'm not sure, this is weird. If you kind of buy into the kids, this is cool, this is lame, whatever. But if you come in enthusiastic, right,
Mhm.
then they're going to pick up on that enthusiasm, I
Hey, well,
imagine.
we're the grown-ups in charge. That's why we get paid the big bucks, right?
Right, exactly. Awesome. So how can we find you? How can we find your website there? You were saying, are you on social media? And how do we purchase your book?
Yes. So yogainphysed.com is my website. My children are teaching me how to do social media because they're
Awesome.
teenagers.
Yeah.
So I am on Instagram, and that's yoga in phys ed as well.
Okay.
I do Twitter. It's K Santos Yoga, and that's the name of my company, my LLC.
Okay. Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I hope this is helpful for the PE teachers. We've definitely met many along our journey here at Kids Yoga Stories. So be sure to send it out to them as
Thank
ideas. Thank you
you.
so much, Kristen.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.